Thank you. Yes, you too.
Yeah, we are up to still in the sugyas of Hanukkah. The bottom of Daf Chaf Aleph from a base, the bottom two dots there. Amar of Kahana. Kahana writes, Darish Reb Nelson Rabban Yomi Mishmeda of Tanchum. Ner Shal Chanukah Shenichal Lamal Mechaf. Near Chanukah, that 1 foot, the Mal Mechaf, he put it higher than 20 Tvachim. Amos. Psula, it's possible. Why? Possible. Kisukkah Kamavi, like a sukkah and mavi, like a sukkah that the schach is above 20 amos, or a mavi is in the the area that they need, the area that they need to carry in, this courtyard, this alleyway, the beam that they put up there as a fixing for the chutzner to allow you to carry into the mavi. All these things can't be about 20 amos. The idea beyond 20 amos is once it's that height, you can't see it well. That's considered out of the vision of the Gemara. Always considered out of the human vision, not in sight, and therefore you wouldn't have a proper pursuing Nisa. That's more understands. Okay.
So the was Tuesday in the Adas newsletter.
Oh yeah.
Morning, so it's definitely okay, right?
When the mullah was Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, sounds okay. I would just check. I would still check. But yeah, makes sense.
Okay, go on. Yeah.
The Gemara goes further. This sounds very random, but it's the same person of Rav Kana, who's Darish Reb Nelson Bar Nimi Misheda of Tanchum. It's the same person. So that's the Pashup shot. If you don't go on a mystical, deeper level, why this statement is being brought here, but it says when Yosef was thrown into the pit by his brothers, it says the pit was empty and there's no water there. So I already said the pit is empty. You don't think I know that there's no water there? So why does it mention it's redundant? It's empty, but there's no water. If it's empty, of course there's nothing in there. Ella, it's telling you, why is it speaking out there's no water? It's saying there's no water there. But but it does have nechashim ve'akravim. Right? It does have nechashim ve'akravim. And one moment. Nechashim ve'akravim are there. And yeah, if we could just learn the Fuach Shlema, the Shimon Aram ben Ada Nacha. This is Rabbi Rausch's father-in-law. He's very ill from the coronavirus. So let's learn Eschosu Torah right now. Should be for Shimon Aram ben Ada Nacha.
Shimon Aram ben Ada Nacha.
Nun Chesed Nacha. All right, so this should be Limud Torah should be the Fuach Shlema.
Amen.
So it says over here that the pit is empty and there's no water. So the Gemara says there's no water there, but there was snakes and scorpions there. Again, this is random, but the randomness is really on a Pashup shot level is because it's the same person. The Gemara collects a lot of the statements of these people and puts them together. This is his place of Nachum or Uni in the name of Tanchum. Okay, so that's what's going on. Okay. Amar Rabba, Ner Chanukah mitzvah nichu tefach muvesa. A Ner Chanukah, the mitzvah is where do you place it? You put it on the tefach that's near the doorway. That's samach to the doorway. The tefach, and the reason it has to be the tefach because you put it farther than a tefach, you don't know that the balabais put it there. Maybe someone random put it there, so it's not apparent that the balabais, the owner of the house, put it down there. That's why it has to be pesach near the entranceway of the door. Okay? And this is the entranceway of the chutzner or Rosh Hashanah, whichever one you put it by, it always has to be a tefach there. Where do you put it? Which side, right or left? This is from the mean. This is from the right going into the house. On the right side. The same side as the mezuzah. And Rosh Shmuel Medifti Amar Mismal. Rosh Shmuel Medifti, remember it is Shmuel, small, so you can remember that. Shmuel Medifti says it's in the small, the left side. We all know this idea. We're taught this as a kid. The Hilchasam is small. Why the left side? Kadesha Ner Chanukah can be small. You walk in the house, and Ner Chanukah is right to your left. The mezuzah mean your mitzvahs and your mezuzah on your right, and you're surrounded by mitzvahs. So that's why we pass like this opinion here. So the Ner Chanukah, if you're in Israel or Hashem Mashiach times, we would do this. We would put it on our left side of our door. Amar of Yud Amar Vasi. Also, the Hartzos most connecting Ner Chanukah. It's prohibited to count money right near the Ner Chanukah. Even though this idea was said before in the Gemara, if you remember from yesterday's stuff, you're not allowed to use the Ner Chanukah. The Rishonim point out that this is telling you not only a permanent sort of usage to sit there and read a long book by it or do something activity by it for a long time, even just a minor activity for temporary is also prohibited to Keneged Ner Chanukah because it's disgraceful. It says Keneged Ner Chanukah. You're standing right by the Ner Chanukah counting money. That's a bizui mitzvah. That's disgraceful mitzvah. So Ki Amrite Kameh to Shmuel, when this statement was said in front of Shmuel, Amarli, Shmuel retorted, V'chi Ner Kedushi Yishma. What's the problem? Does the Ner have holiness? We're not dealing with what's the holiness? Or it's a mitzvah, but is there a holiness? Is it like, a Beis? Is it like a korban in the Beis Hamikdash? I can't use it. Like, what's the problem here? So massive. So that was Shmuel's question, and to that question, Rav Yossi answered it with another question. It says, Masker Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi asked him, your premise, your question is flawed, because that V'chi dam Kiddushi Yeshvo, does dam of Kiddusha, the halacha is when someone slaughters a bird or a chaya, not like a behema, there's a mitzvah called Kisui Hadam. I've done it one time in my life, or two times. When you do kaparas, there's a special mitzvah when you slaughter a bird to actually make a bracha and cover the blood. Kisui Hadam. So halacha is Kisui Hadam. We're going to see in a moment. You cannot cover it with your foot. You have to cover it with your hand. You can't just take it into
it's like the Torah says, basically, multiple times, right?
What does it say?
The Torah says you have to cover it with dirt.
Yeah, but the question is, could you take the dirt and kick it over with your foot, or do you?
No, it says you have to cover it with a hand multiple times.
This is the drasha that it's learned out. It's not explicit, but this is the Gemara that speaks it out. It says v'shafach b'kisa. It says in the Torah v'shafach b'kisa. You should pour it and cover it. The Gemara understands what this means. It's b'masha shafach. With that which you poured it with, this is your hand. Yechasa, you cover it with your hand. It's putting juxtaposition of shafach b'kisa, saying the same thing which pours the blood on the floor, that will should cover it. Don't cover shleichasena beregel. Don't cover with your foot. Shlei mitzvahs b'zuyas alav. So mitzvahs shouldn't be disgraceful, and you make a mockery out of mitzvahs and just kick it with your foot, and it should be respectful. The disrespect to the mitzvah we can't do. So hachanami, the same way we can't be disrespectful to the mitzvah, like you said, we can't also count money or use the ner chanukah until you mitzvahs b'zuyas alav. So mitzvahs shouldn't be, disregard the mitzvahs, so they should be bazu. Bazu means disgrace on you. It shouldn't be like a nothing. It should have some prestige, and that's the reason why. So he answered the question with basically an answer, or the question that just like by Kisei Adam, we don't disgrace the mitzvah and cover with our foot. We use our hands. So too, when it comes to Ner Chanukah, you're not allowed to count. And this we don't use the Ner Chanukah. We have a shamish. We don't use it. It was asked from Yeshua Levi, Mal this topic minoi sukkah. A random question, but the question is connected to our subject. We'll see in a moment. Is someone allowed to mistapik minoi sukkah shiva? We have sukkah decorations, and you designate on the sukkah. Are the sukkah designations now considered designated to mitzvah? Now you can't use it for your own purposes or not, right? So they become a part of the sukkah in the fact that they're an item of mitzvah, and now you cannot use it for mundane purposes. So Amrlei, look, it says by Ner Chanukah, you can't count money near the Ner Chanukah. So too, just like you can't count money near Chanukah, designated for mitzvah takes on some status of prohibiting it from benefiting from it. So too by the decorations of the sukkah. To which Rav Yossi said, Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi says, you'll find this language a lot of times in conjunction with Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi, at a certain point, he got sick and forgot all his learning. So throughout the Gemara, throughout Shas, you find him trying to remember his learning and trying to figure out, was the statement said, did I say the statement or not? So over here, he's one of those times where he explains that Rav Yossi. Yossi says, Mari Daram, Master Avram. How can you say such a thing? Taldi Tanya below Tanya. You are depending something which is explicit in the Brisa, which something which is not explicit in the Brisa. In other words, you're bringing a source from something, you're asking a question, and you're bringing a source from something which has no source. But the question that you're asking has an explicit source. That's what he's saying. You're Taldi Tanya, you're depending on a question which is already explicit in the Brisa, and the answer you're depending on something which is not Tanya, which is not in a Brisa, it's not explicit at all. Because Sukkah Tanya, there's an explicit brisa which says Allah Sukkah, but Chanukah lo Tanya. By Chanukah, there's no brisa which says it's an Amoraic statement that you can't use in their Chanukah. There's no brisa. The Tanya, the brisa says Chacha Belchasa. The brisa writes that if someone did his Sukkah properly, put the proper schach, the Itra of the Kramim, and he decorated it with Kramim, From them are some sort of tapestries, colorful tapestries, ubisadinim, and also another types of tapestries, sheets, ubision, which have pictures on them. Betalaba goyzim, and he hung from the sukkah walnuts, afraskim, it's different types of fruits. Shkedim, berimoidim, pomegranates, and almonds, bachira and oven, clusters of grapes, vatara, shel shibolim, and
Falsec is a pear, by the way.
It's a pear, okay. And atar shibolim are probably like some sort of wheat kernels, like wheat stalks, decorative. Yenos, they used to take wine and hang it, and they put it in, I guess, clear pitchers, glass pitchers, and hung wine. Shmanim v'saltos, likewise oils, and soyless and flour they used to hang in these pitchers. Then that was considered decorative. Also, you are not allowed to use them. You can't take some. If you need some flour to bake some challah, you can't take, or oil, or some fruit. They're designated and regulated to mitzvah, and no longer can use them until the last day, until actually the last day of the Chag. This even includes Shmini Atzeres. But if you made a condition stipulation that you initially, when you were building the sukkah, you made a stipulation and said that I don't want the kedusha of the sukkah to be chal, to go onto these decorations, then the stipulation works and you could use them. So therefore, that's the Gemara's answer. We have a brisa which speaks of the halacha by sukkah. We don't need to use a ner Chanukah to bring a proof to this point. So where's the source that you cannot get benefit from, even though it's a brisa, but where's the ultimate source that you can't get benefit from ner Chanukah? And I guess from sukkah is where's the brisa notice as well. The father of them all, in other words, the ultimate source is dam. We learn out from blood, covering the blood, that you cannot be graceful to the mitzvahs. You have to treat them with respect. And from there we learn out that all mitzvahs also as well, when you designate from the mitzvah, you are not allowed to use them for mundane purposes. Although I'm a little bit questioning on this point because I haven't looked up anything on this, but the dam is there, you can't use your foot. That's really disrespectful. That's a real disrespect. How do you know to make a connection to things which are not real disrespect, merely mundane usages? I'm leaving that as a little bit of a question. Okay, but Itmar.
Becker?
Yes.
How do you learn from you can't count money opposite the Hanukkah lights, which isn't a Yom Tov type thing at all, that you can't take down anything that was put up as a sukkah decoration during Sukkot?
I mean, the Gemara attempted to do that. The Gemara rejected it. But the attempted limit is that you see that when something is designated for a mitzvah, you can't use it for mundane purposes. That's what we see on a simple level. The Gemara rejected it. The Gemara says that's not the source, but that would be the simple connection.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Taisus does ask the question, why do you have to learn it out from blood? Why can you learn it out of sukkah? Sukkah has a brisa. Sukkah, we find that that's a source. You can't use it. You can't use the decorative sukkah. So Taisus explained because sukkah wouldn't be a good source, because sukkah is entirely negating the mitzvah. When you take the decorations down and use them, the flour and you're totally annulling the mitzvah. You're eating the decorations. They're gone. But that wouldn't be a good source in an event where you're just using the light of the Hanukkah candles, where you are not eradicating the mitzvah. You're just merely using it for mundane purposes. That wouldn't be a good source. So we need to bring a source that's something which is, you're not negating the mitzvah. The mitzvah will still be done, but you see that you can't be disrespectful to it. That's what the source we need for Ner Hanukkah. That's what Taisus answers. Let us go further. Itmar. Yeah. Okay. Itmar. So no different discussion. Are you allowed to light from ner l'ner? Could you light, as we know, we all take a shamish and we probably take a match or we light a match. We take a candle and we light all the ner Hanukkahs from our regular candle, not a mitzvah candle. The question is, would you be able to light a candle of the ner Hanukkah, and then subsequently, I guess, let's say your candle got blown, your shamish got blown out, then can I go and light the other Hanukkah candles from the first Hanukkah candle that I lit, right? So when I already lit the Hanukkah candle, would it be okay to take another candle and transfer that light to another Hanukkah candle? Is that okay or not okay? Okay. So that is the question. Yeah, so Rav Amar Ema Lika Mener Lener. Rav says you cannot light from one candle to other candle through the conduit of a mundane candle, a whole candle, a candle which is not holy. You cannot do that. The Shmuel says Malikin. Shmuel says yes, you could light. You could take from one mitzvah to the other mitzvah, and even though it's already lit for the mitzvah, you could use it for the other. You could take another candle, light it, and then relight it, and light another candle from there. Likewise, in this subject, Rav Amar Ema Tira. Rav says you cannot take tzitzis from one beged, you have an old pair of tzitzis, you want to transfer to a new pair of tzitzis. Rav says you cannot transfer that tzitzis to another beged. Because again, this is all on the subject, this is considered disgracing the first mitzvah. By using the first mitzvah, not respecting that way. Even though but Shmuel would say, Matirin, because Lamaisa, this is even though I'm doing something mundane, but it's for a purpose of a mitzvah. Matir beged. Right? So, I mean, really the idea over here is, am I allowed to do something which is seemingly whole, mundane, for the purpose of a mitzvah? Lighting a candle from the mitzvah candle, but for the purpose of lighting another candle, that's the question of the mitzvah. Or likewise, taking off the tzitzis from one beged to transfer another beged. Rav says you cannot do such a thing. Shmuel says you could do such a thing. And again, this is another one that has nothing to do with the subject, but these are all things that Rav and Shmuel argue about, where in general we normally pass in like Rav, but here we don't. That's why we couple them together. These are three statements where we do not pass in like Rav. We pass in like either Shmuel or Rav. So Rav Amein Halach Gershim Megreira. Rav says the halach is not like Gershim Megreira. This is the famous machlokes called Davar Shein Miskavin. When someone does a malacha but he doesn't intend for the malacha. For example, he plans on just dragging a bench to take from his house, his backyard to his house, but by doing that he digs a ditch, and the ditch is a malacha called chayresh. But he doesn't intend for that malacha. It's called Davar Shein Miskavin. It's a famous machlokes all over Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Shimon. So Rav Shimon permits it, Rabbi Yehuda prohibits it. So here Rav says we do not pass like Rav Shimon, we don't pass him leniently. And Shmuel says halacha to Rav Shimon. Halacha is like Rav Shimon. That Davar Shein Miskavin is mutter. So Amar Abaye comments, Kol Mili Damar Rav. We always go like Rav, right? We always go like Rav. The Bar Mehani Tlas, except for these three scenarios. David Kishmol, we do like Shmuel. The Hainu, meaning Malik and Ner Lener, we will light from one candle, Hanukkah candle, to the other Hanukkah candle, through the means of a shamish, the means of a non-mitzvah candle, even though that's seemingly disgracing the mitzvah by lighting a mundane candle with it. Umatir mi beged lebeged. Likewise, we take from tzitzis from one beged to the other beged. And likewise, halacha is like Rav Shimon by dragging the bench. The Tanya Rav Shimon Amar Gara Adamita Kisi V'Safsel. Rav Shimon says you're allowed to drag a bench and a bed, a bench, a chair. But you can't have bimechavin as long as you don't have intention to dig that ditch. This is called Davar Shein Miskavin is mutter, but it's providing, obviously, you probably all know this, it's providing that it's not a psik reisha. It can't be a definite the malach is going to happen. That's always off limits, even according to Rav Shimon. If it's a psik reisha, it's definitely going to happen. It has to be that it might not happen. It could happen, might not happen. Then if you don't intend for it, it's mutter.
Yeah, but the grira of Tzitzi is totally different from the grira of Shabbos dragging a bench.
Why?
The grira is first used talking about taking tzitzit off one garment, putting it on another, right?
The three random machloksim, nothing has to do with each other. Just three random places Rav and Shmuel argue. They have nothing to do with each other. We're just putting them together because it happens to be cases that we pass in like Shmuel and Rav. Yeah. Okay. There was a certain rabbi, it doesn't say his name, he remains anonymous, was sitting in front of Avada Barabba. He also and he said this halacha. And he wanted to know Rav's reasoning that Rav says that you are not allowed to light from one candle to the next, right? Even though they're both mitzvah. Again, through the conduit of a mundane candle, or whatever you call it, a whole candle. So he analyzed like this. Is time at Rav Mishum Bizi mitzvah? Is the reason of Rav because you're disgracing the mitzvah? So I'm sorry, this is what he commented. He commented that the reason of Rav is because of Bizi mitzvah, because you're disgracing the mitzvah by taking a regular candle and lighting from the mitzvah, which is already lit, and transferring to another candle. That's a bizayon to the mitzvah. It's disgracing the mitzvah by lighting a mundane candle. So Amalahu, Rav Ada responded, Loi tatzitule, don't listen to him. He's wrong. He doesn't have Rab's reasoning down correct. Time of the Rab, the reason of the Rab is for a different reason. Because you're weakening the mitzvah. In other words, when you take from one candle which is already lit, and it's obviously you don't weaken a flame, but it looks like you're weakening the flame. It looks like it. It looks like you're taking from the fire, and you're taking. I guess you may be taking a little bit of the oil away from it, so that looks bad, and that's the bizayon. The fact that you're taking. It's not because of bizayon of a mitzvah. It's merely because you're weakening a mitzvah. I guess that's even worse sense. So it sounds very similar. Like, what's the difference? My benau. What's the difference between them? Ika benau. The difference between whether it's a bizui mitzvah, disgrace to the mitzvah, or you're weakening the mitzvah, comes out to kamalik mishraga l'shraga. What would be if you lit directly from one candelabra to the next? In other words, you had the Hanukkah candle lit already, and then you took the whole menorah and lit another candle on a different menorah from that candle directly. In other words, you didn't use the means of another candle to transfer the flame. So there was no transfer through a candle which was not Kodesh, slowly. So Madhyam Rishon Bizei Mitzvah, the opinion, which was that Rabbanan, who said the reason of Rab you can't do it is because of disgracing the mitzvah. Mishraga l'shraga Malik, no problem. From one menorah to the other menorah, you're not disgracing the mitzvah. You're going from one mitzvah directly to the other menorah. But Mandam Mishimachushi mitzvah, the Mandam says you can't do a transfer candle from the mitzvah is because you're weakening the mitzvah or seemingly weakening it. Mishraga l'shraga nami aser. Transferring from one menorah to the next also is aser because you're weakening a mitzvah, even though it's for another mitzvah. That would be the nafkamina between the two opinions. Could you light directly from one menorah to the next? Masiv Rav Abba. Rav Abba asked the question. I wanted to we'll see in a moment too. Shela shel ma'aser sheni. Turn the page. Shela shel ma'aser sheni. Ein sheiklin kenegdo dinar izov. So the halacha is, we know that certain years, the second and something year, you take off ma'aser sheni off your crops. Right? When you take off ma'aser sheni off your crops, the halacha with ma'aser sheni is you don't give it to a kohen. You take it up to Yerushalayim and eat it there. However, you're allowed to be owed to redeem it. If it's too hard for you to carry it, you could transfer the value of the food, the ma'aser sheni, onto coins. And you could take the coins up to Yerushalayim and purchase certain types of foods up there. So in an event that a person has this ma'aser sheni coins in his house, and he wants in the olden days, they didn't have like quarters and nickels and dimes where the value was set. Their money that was based on the metal content, the gold content. So he wanted to measure, he had ma'aser sheni, and he put it on one side of the scale, and he wanted to measure and weigh another coin, kenegdo, to see if the other coin had the same weight and money metal content as this coin. Obviously for mitzvah purposes, because he wanted to see how much money he'll be able to put on this new coin over here. The halacha is you cannot do that. You can't take ma'aser sheni on one side of the scale and weigh a coin which has no kedusha yet on it, the other side of the scale, to determine the weight. It's disgracing the mitzvah. You can't do such a thing. Right? Even if your intent is to use that coin, to use that other coin, to eventually mechal ma'aser sheni in it. Ask the Gemara. Now the Gemara concludes their question. If you're going to say Rav and Shmuel argue from ner l'ner, their machlokas is when you're lighting directly from one candle to the next, avo bekinsa aser, this is the reasoning of Rabbah. If you're going to say they're arguing about that you're not allowed to perhaps weaken the mitzvah, and therefore the problem will be Rav's problem is lighting even from one menorah to the next. But everyone would agree if you transfer the mitzvah candle through the conduit of a mundane candle, that certainly would be aser. Shmuel was also aser. So then this brisa would not pose the question, because this brisa clearly does not allow us to use a mitzvah even for a mundane purpose, even if it's for the ultimate purpose eventually of the mitzvah, because you're weighing coins on the other side of the scale of the ma'aser sheni, using ma'aser sheni, even though the eventual purpose is for a mitzvah for these coins, right? So if you're going to say they argue about one candle to the next, but everyone agrees that it certainly be a problem to light through a separate candle, then of course we understand this brisa, because this brisa clearly says that's usher. But but if you're going to say that no, Shmuel's opinion is even a kinsa shari. In other words, they're arguing about bizui mitzvah, that Rav does not allow you light from a mundane candle from the mitzvah to transfer to another candle of mitzvah. He doesn't allow you to do that because he's worried about the disgrace of the mitzvah. And in that scenario, Shmuel argues and says it's permitted. So why would this brisa prohibit weighing Meiser Sheni and other coin outside of a scale is regular coins? What's the problem? Even though you are using Meiser Sheni, right, for the purpose of mundane coins, but the eventual purpose of these mundane coins is to put Meiser Sheni on them. So inasmuch as Shmuel permits you to light from a kinsa, to light from another candle or wood chip, but kinsa is really a wood chip, right, which is mundane, for the purpose of a mitzvah, they should allow you in this case as well. So that seems clearly a proof that they're really only arguing about transferring from one candle to the next, from one menorah to the next menorah. And in that scenario, Shmuel permits it, but Shmuel would never permit you to use a kinsa. That's what the Gemara says. So Amar Rabba, so Amar Rabba answers, Zera Shem Alechav Mishkalosa. Rabba answers no. In reality, they could be arguing about using that conduit of that kinsa, that wood chip. And in that scenario, Shmuel may permit it. So why does this brisa here seem to prohibit ever weighing any mundane thing against a mitzvah, using a mitzvah item, even though eventually it's for the purpose of the mitzvah? It's a gzera, it's just a decree. Shem Alechav Mishkalosa. Perhaps the coins on the other side won't be the same weight. You'll see they're too much, they're too little, and they won't be appropriate to use for Meiser Sheni, but come up and eventually, and in the end of the day, you won't use them for Meiser Sheni. You'll just use them for your regular chulin, for your regular purposes. So in other words, really in reality, it should be okay, according to Shmuel, to do such a thing, because even though you seem to be weighing your mundane coins against a mitzvah coin, it would be right. But Shmuel should permit this because the purpose is eventual mitzvah. However, we made a separate decree because we're afraid maybe it won't work out. That maybe it won't be the exact weight, and you won't end up doing the mitzvah with this. But that has no bearings on the machokas beforehand. Maybe the machokas beforehand, Shmuel would permit you to light from a regular candle from the mitzvah candle in order to transfer the mitzvah, because there we don't have such a worry, right? Because there it's for the purpose of a mitzvah, even though seemingly you're disgracing the mitzvah for a momentarily, but eventually it's for a mitzvah. So Masir Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes asked a question from a brisa. It says, "B'chutz la'paroichas ha'edus Yaro." We're talking about arranging the menorah outside the paroichas, outside in the kodesh, not the kodesh Hashem. So, ask the Gemara, "V'chila arahu tzarech?" Like, what's the purpose of this ner? There's something called the ner marabi there, a constant candle that has to be there. What's the purpose of it? Chila arahu tzarech? Does Hashem need the light? Or Taisus brings down, does the Kohen Gadol need the light there? All 4 years of Jews in the Midbar, they went to the Ira of the Ira, I guess that's Ira of Hashem's or. So why are we lighting a candle for Hashem? The Gemara says, "Al-Eidos to the Ba'olam," testimony. This Ner Maravi, there's this constant candle which is always lit in the Beis Hamikdash, is a testimony for all the people of the world. Shashkina Shar B'Yisrael, the Shekhinah rests in Yisrael. My Eidos, what's the testimony? Amarav Zu Ner Maravi. This is referencing, there's a Ner Maravi, there's a western candle, which according to Tzemachok is where it's located, but we'll go with the opinion that the menorah, when you walk into the Beis Hamikdash, the Kodesh, the menorah is facing east-west. In other words, it's facing east-west. You're in the east side walking towards the west. That's how the menorah faces, east-west, not north-south. The Ner Maravi is going to be the candle, the second candle, meaning it's going to be the second candle from the west. In other words, you're going to count 6 candles. That's 7th candle when you're walking up to the, not right, the one right before the last one towards the west is the Ner Maravi. That's the western one. That is the Ner Maravi. According to the opinion that it's north-south, the menorah facing will be the middle one. But this is the one we go like. This is the Ner Maravi. It's the second most to the western side. So there's this constant flame that's always there. Always. It's a miracle that it existed for till a certain point in Bayis Rishon, until Shimon HaTzadik. At a certain point in history, the Jews weren't worthy anymore and it extinguished. But the miracle exists for a long time. The miracle existed that it was always there, constantly lit there. It was a miracle. It never went out, the Ner Maravi. So what about this Ner Maravi? The halach was this Ner Maravi, it had the same amount of oil as the rest of the flames, and the rest of them. And they used to light from it. They used to finish it off. Rashi describes the halach is that when they do meitiv the neiros in the morning in the Beis Hamikdash, there's the process, the avodah of cleaning out the ashes, putting in new oil, putting in wicks, right? So they used to leave the ner. They used to do every candle except the ner maravi, that one, because that one was still lit. It was still lit from the previous day. And at nighttime, when it's time to relight the menorah again, Rashi says they used to take out the wick when it was currently lit. Rashi seemed to have a mitzvah that you could take it out when it's lit. Then they used to clean out that ner maravi, right, after all the other ones, and relight it and relight the rest from it. Right, relight the rest. That's how Rashi learns. Taisus a little bit of a different scenario. Taisus says that's an impossible mitzvah, and Taisus says if you could do that, then there should be no problem. But more, that's what Rashi describes. It was the one that was always there, and it was the last one to be cleaned out. But the point is, they lit all the rest of them from that Ner Maravi, which is the Gemara's question. So you're taking one candle of the menorah and lighting the rest from it, obviously through the conduit of a mundane candle, right? How else do you get that flame over there? How else would you do it? How else would you do such a thing? So, yeah. So how else would you do such a thing? Right? The menorah wasn't made into the menorah wasn't. You weren't able to take it apart, so you were obviously using another candle to transfer the flame. So the Gemara concludes their question. Since the neros are set into place, they're not. They don't come into pieces. They're not. Wasn't portable in the sense that you could take it apart and put it back together. Lo sagi lo mishkol valuke. It wouldn't be sufficient. It wouldn't be enough. There's no other way to do it unless you take from another candle and light from it. So kasha ben l'man rishon b'zui mitzvah. This questions both opinions, whether it's b'zui mitzvah, ben l'man rishon mechushim mitzvah. This is a question on both opinions, because we see over here that again, this is the opinion of Rav. So that's why the Gemara is asking the question. But either way, whatever opinion that you go like, this would be a problem. Whether it's b'zui mitzvah, whether it's a chushi mitzvah, there's a problem going on over here. How are you allowed to light from another candle, right? Using the candle of one candle. So the Gemara says, no, we're talking about we're talking about very long wicks. So that's how you're allowed to do it, because we're not talking about using a mundane candle and transferring it. We're talking about you're taking the very long wicks and from the Ner Maravi, and you're extending them to the other candles. So the Gemara says, sof, okay, that works out for the opinion who holds the b'zui mitzvah, that his only problem was using another candle to transfer them is a problem. But according to the Bandar, the problem is weakening the mitzvah. You're still running into a problem here. You're weakening the mitzvah by transferring the flame. So kasha, and the Gemara leaves that as a kasha. It seems like the Gemara is shrugging up that opinion. But the Gemara still asks, "My have Allah." What is the final psak? What's the final psak in this idea over here? Are you allowed to? Is it because of? Are you allowed to transfer? Or not allowed to transfer it? So Amar Rav Huna Breder Yeshua Chazina. We see. It depends. We're going to see in a moment, and we're going to discuss this moment. What is the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah? Is the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah the lighting is the mitzvah? The Maisa lighting? We really discussed this previously when the sugi of Kafsa Zakul or not. Or is the Hanocha the mitzvah? Not the lighting, the placement of the menorah down is the mitzvah. When you place it down, that's the ultimate mitzvah, not per se the lighting. So the Gemara says like this. If Hadlaka does the mitzvah, if the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is the Maisa of lighting it, then Malikim and Ner, then you can light from one candle to the next, because you already did the mitzvah. That was the mitzvah. Now, furthering from there wouldn't be such a problem. The Hanocha is the mitzvah, but if Hanocha, the placement's the mitzvah, it seemed like the mitzvah is not per se necessarily in the lighting, it's more in the placement, and therefore the mitzvah seems to be a little bit more continuous. Then Malikim and Ner. Then a Malikim and Ner. Then you wouldn't be able to transfer from one candle to the next. All right? because the halakha is not so much the halakha is not so much the mitzvah. That's how Rashi describes it. And Rashi's a little vague on the pshat here, but I'm assuming the pshat is that if the mitzvah is the halakha, then it's already done. The mitzvah is halakha, it's already done. But the mitzvah hanacha, the mitzvah is a little bit more continuous, and it's more of a problem to transfer it. Yeah. Rashi says, but the problem is if hanacha is the mitzvah, we don't see up the halakha as such a mitzvah. It's not such a mitzvah. Therefore, we wouldn't allow you to transfer the candles. That's how Rashi describes it. I'm not clear exactly what Rashi means, but that's what the Gemara is depending it on. So, Dibailu, meaning that question was, halakha oisim mitzvah, hanacha oisim mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Is the lighting the mitzvah or the placement the mitzvah? Tashma, Yamar Rabba hayatafis ner Chanukah va'oimed. If a person lit a menorah and he was just holding the entire time, he never put it down. Lo asav lo klum. He didn't do anything. Shema mina, we see ner hanacha oisim mitzvah. The mitzvah is the placement, not the lighting. And since he never put it down, it's a problem. Which the Gemara says, no, that's not a proof. They're the one who sees it, meaning people will think that he's just lighting it for his own purposes to read his book or do his own activities by it, and it's not recognizable for the mitzvah. But that's no indication that hanacha is really the mitzvah. Maybe hanacha is the mitzvah. This is a particular problem in that case, because it looks like you're doing the mitzvah for you're not doing it for mitzvah, you're doing it for yourself. Tashma. Rabbi says if one lit it inside his house, which in the time of the Gemara there wasn't yoitz in the mitzvah, and then subsequently he took it outside, you didn't do the mitzvah. So if the halakha is the mitzvah, we understand why you're not yotzi, because you have to do the lighting in the proper place, which is right outside the house. And you didn't do it there. But if the placement is the mitzvah, why didn't you do anything? Right? You lit in the house, so what? That's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is the placement, and you placed it outside. You did the mitzvah. So that would seem like this indication that halakha is the mitzvah. Answer the Gemara: no, that's not a proof, because over there's a particular problem. Because if you lit it inside and carried it outside, people who saw that might think that you did it for yourself, and therefore the mitzvah is not as apparent. So it's exera that it won't work over there. We try to go to the two dots. A couple more lines.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tashma Amar Yishuv and Levi. Yishuv and Levi says, Ashashish Shaisidlakas Olchayam Kulo. Ashashish is some sort of big lantern, some big glass lantern. I guess that was your Friday. That was your Friday. That was your Shabbos menorah that you lit, and it lasted. It was a lot of oil. I guess it lasted the whole Shabbos. Motzi Shabbos, Mechaba Malika. Motzi Shabbos, you have to extinguish it and relight it. You can't just rely on it for the Motzi Shabbos Hanukkah candles, saying, what's the problem? It's lit. I'll just use this again. You have to extinguish it and light it. The Gemara says, if you're going to say lighting is the mitzvah, chopper, we understand why you have to extinguish it. But if the placement is the mitzvah, so you don't have to extinguish it. It's not enough to extinguish it and light it. You have to extinguish it, pick it up, and place it down and light it. Right? You got to actually do the placement yourself. Right? That's what you got to do. I'm a little bothered by this. Why do you have to extinguish it? Why is it enough that you just pick it up, like put it over 20 amas, or put it somewhere where it's not kosher, and bring it back and put it down? Why do you need to extinguish it? I don't know. I didn't look up the answer to that, but that bothered me a little bit. It says, no, it's not enough. The Gemara's point is it's not enough to extinguish it. You should have to also lift it up and place it down, because the hanach is the mitzvah. And furthermore, look at the text of the bracha. It says Hashem commanded us, the saint of us, commanded us to light in their Chanukah. The mitzvah is the lighting. Shema Mina, Allah we see from here the lighting is the mitzvah. Shema Mina. So that's what we do. We see lighting is the mitzvah. The hashda damrinan Allah mitzvah. What's the nafkamina? Hilika cheresh shota b'katan. If someone a cheresh or shota b'katan, someone were not obligated in mitzvahs, a mute, shota, a mentally incapacitated person, a katan, or a katan, a minor, lost a klum. The mitzvah is not a mitzvah, right? Meaning, in other words, if hanacha was the mitzvah, we wouldn't care who lit it. We would just care about the placement down, right? Replacement. But being that the halakha is a mitzvah, if someone who's not kosher, someone who's not a bar mitzvahs, the lighting does it. The lighting will be disqualified. What about a woman? Isha vadim alik. A woman certainly could light. Damar Yeshua and Levi. This is a famous concept. When are women obligated in mitzvahs? Nashim. I mean, there are abundant mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs. We know the rule. Torah mitzvahs, the rule is if it's a zman grama, it's time bound. They're not obligated. Non-time they're obligated. But mitzvahs there are abundant. Nashim chayavos b'ner Chanukah. Women are obligated in their Chanukah. Because they were also in that nace. Anytime women were involved in the nace, and they were integral in the nace, as Rashi brings down, because the Yavanim, the Greeks decreed, and unfortunately, every single woman who was getting married Basula, they would first have to have bia relations with the officer, and they were saved from this nace. They were saved the women, so the women were intimately involved in this nace as well. So since they're involved, they're obligated in the mitzvah as well, so they could certainly light as well. They're not disqualified from that. Also, the same thing by Megillah. Any mitzvah they're abundant, the Avin Ois, they're also obligated as well. So that's what the Gemara comes out with, is that halakha is the mitzvah, not the hanacha. The nafkamina would be a cherishot of the cutting. Okay, let's hold it over here.
Shkoyach. Rabbi Stern got back to me. He says, yes, we do Kiddush Levana tonight.
Oh, you did it tonight. Okay.
And Rabbi Becker, do you have time for a question on an earlier daf or not tonight?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Do
Thank you.
okay, so.
Okay, sure, Alan.
So it's Yud Dalid Amud Aleph. Amarav Mashar Shaya.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, so the truma, the people felt the truma is kodesh, so they wanted to store it in the best place possible. So they stored their truma next to Sifrei Torah, because they're also kadosh.
Yes.
And then the mice started coming and eating the truma, and they also nibbled at the klafim of the Torah. So the Rabbanan made a gezerah. Not only is it aser to do that, they felt that wouldn't be enough, but people wouldn't obey just if it was an iser. They went further and said it's iser because the Sifrei Torah are tameh.
Yes.
So I don't understand this. How can they just, because of some mice making trouble, they make a permanent decree for all time that Sifrei Torah are tameh? They're not tameh for any other reason except that the mice were incidentally eating the Sifrei Torah along with the grain. Where's their pasuk? Where's their source? It's like they made a decree for the public good based on their common sense. I mean, can't something like that be easily attacked?
I mean, it's not relevant. The tumah is not relevant nowadays. It's only relevant when there's truma. It's a very relevant because they felt whenever there's truma around, they felt that people were gonna very likely store the truma together with the Sifrei Torah. It doesn't have a ramification nowadays. It's not like it really did something tremendous for nowadays. What's the ramification nowadays? We don't have truma. We don't have maisa. We have nothing. So,
but if we did, this would be halacha, the maisa.
Perhaps that the rabbis were able to foresee that this was a real suspicion. People might really store their holy food with their Sifrei Torah. They felt it was a real suspicion. It's hard to relate to because you don't have truma. I don't know, but yeah.
I guess I'm trying to understand the halachic process among the Amoraim. I thought they had to have more weight behind them and more, more authority than that just deciding, well, there's mice. Like, there was no other possible solution, poison the mice or store the truma in different kinds of bags or store the Sifrei Torah in different bags or put some bad smelling thing nearby that repelled the mice. I mean, no, we'll make the Sifrei Torah tuma, tatame. That's it. That's the only solution.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. These are the kinds of things I don't get. And I'm not saying I'm not saying it disrespectfully, like I'm challenging it and what do they know or anything. God forbid. I'm saying in trying to learn Gemara and understand how everything works, trying to understand how it works sort of falls apart when I see this kind of thing. I don't understand.
Right.
I thought everything was like the Torah Moshe Sinai or the 13 Principles or some deep form of Svara, Kal V'chomer, a Pasuk, something. But if it's just common sense, our Rebbeim today could say after this coronavirus ends, God willing, soon, well, you know what? Shaking hands even when there's no coronavirus. People have colds and flus and this and that. We're going to make a gzera, no more shaking hands ever. You greet people in a different way from now on. So that might be a smart thing and might make sense, but it's based on their experience in the world and what's been going on. It's not based on a pasuk or, Hashem's word or anything.
Yeah. We are told that a lot of times Chazal tells us one reason they're hiding the real reason. So they tell us one reason. There's many, many reasons, deeper reasons. I've seen that brought down regarding the laws of, Chalav Stam. I don't know if you're not makbid. Many people are not makbid to have Chalav Yisrael. And the reason is because they're Moshe Feinstein. And Moshe Feinstein is all based on the reasons of the Gemara. The reasons of the Gemara, it doesn't apply in America because of various reasons, the FDA laws, etc.
Because of the USDA would destroy any farmer that violated it, so America is not Europe.
Yeah.
The USDA is the one that monitors it, and no farmer would ever dream of doing it because they lose their license. They're barbaric. There's no bribes, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
That was the reason for Feinstein's psak that he said we can trust the U.S. government.
Yeah. But
because it's real. It's not fictitious.
Many argue on that. I mean, there's a lot of arguments on that. But the argument on that is that Moshe is basing it off the Gemara that said the reason that we don't drink Chalav Akum and we need Chalav Yisrael is because we're afraid they're going to mix in camel milk or some non-kosher milk. So that's what his psak is based on. That's impossibility in America. A very likely impossibility. But that's assuming that he's going with the fact that the Gemara's reasonings are the reasonings of really what the mitzvah is. But if there could be a whole slew of millions of mitzvah of reasons that the Chazal really hid in their infinite wisdom, right, that wouldn't be sufficient to matter because of FDA and all these laws nowadays. That's what some people argue, right?
There was also an overall decline in observance, so he said this is a compromise that actually makes sense given the times and the reality.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael.
Does this make sense?
Thank you very much, Rabbi Becker.
Does it make sense what I'm saying, Rabbi Becker?
Say it again, Michael. Sorry.
Does it make sense what I'm saying that he saw the overall decline of the immigrants at the turn of the century, and given that the USDA was what it was not a terrible compromise given the reality? No?
Because he saw that the decline of the Jewish people and he had to make some sort of compromise.
I mean, when they came from Europe to America, the idea was you got to assimilate, be like everybody else, and at least people would drink milk that's kosher there completely.
I'm not sure. I mean, he's Moshe really holds up his son's drink supposedly. That's Rabbi Stern. Stern claims his sons drink Chalav Stam. But Moshe
he himself said, I would never drink Chalav Stam, but I'm going to do a zera given what I see.
Right.
He didn't.
I don't know. I'm not
he
sure.
just was realistic.
I'm not sure. I don't know if he works that way. It could be. You're right.
What did Rabbi Stern say with his sons again? Repeat what you just said.
I think he says they actually follow their father's psak to drink Chalav Stam. You could drink Chalav.
Okay.
No, but I heard they only do that out of respect for their father, not to make his name, his great name be at all diminished. Like people saying, look, his own sons don't hold by him. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. That makes sense to not make it a joke. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So 7:30 tomorrow?
Yeah, it's the regular time tomorrow. Sounds right.
Yeah, we're going backwards on the times so with nets, so it's.
And we could be flexible. I mean, nets is we're going backwards, so we could do it even earlier, probably.
We're like 6:18 or something like that by There's no Tachnun in Nissan.
But the Nate's Minyan starts at, the virtual Nate's Minyan starts at 6:18?
No, I mean, I got to get the schedule, but it's something like that. I mean, we'll be done like 10 to 7 or something like that.
Okay, so 7:30 is good night. You guys are you're way too, zealous. So if Nate's is 5:40 or 5:20, you want to have the Daf Yomi at 5:50 or something.
Listen, when we're not in this coronavirus, that's what we do. We have it 6 o'clock in the morning. You forgot about that.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
We're really, whatever.
Okay, guys. See you.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Everybody.
All right. 7:30 tomorrow morning. We'll see. Okay. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.